You are live, mate. Live
Brilliant.
at Circle Leadership headquarters with Bass Tadros. The moment I've been waiting for. Finally been able to do a live stream with the infamous Bass. It's all about the Bass.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. I've been asked many times, is it like Bass straight? Is
Yeah.
Bass straight? And I said, yeah, Bass is straight.
Now, is Bass your actual? Is that like? Is it short for Sebastian, or is it Bass? Is that your name?
Bass is actually short for Bassem, and Bassem is an
Bassem.
Arabic name. Yeah, because I was born in Egypt, and I better not make it sound like Bassem. It's Bassem, it comes from the word smiley. That's why I smile a lot, Dave.
Man, is there anything you do a little bit? We need to get you a little bit more into focus, I think.
All right. Yep. Sure.
Yeah.
How's that?
You're still a bit pixelated, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
Modern marvels of modern technology.
Yeah. I'm wondering if it's my internet.
It could be. And what's getting like this is we have all this awesome, amazing technology in terms of for live streaming and everything like that, and you get there and you're like, first world problems. We're complaining that we're a bit pixelated or something. If 10 years ago I told you that you'd be able to stream live across the world for free on video, or even for a very nominal fee, you'd have laughed at me.
Absolutely.
Yet here we are. Now we're complaining about the quality of the video, and it's quite fascinating, my dad.
I agree. And I always say thank God for this kind of technology, because especially during recent times with lockdowns and things like that, I'm a human that loves human contact and connection.
Yeah.
And so having this is a vital thing at these times.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's and I think slowly but surely, I think your internet's coming in. Here we go. You're coming much more and more into focus.
Right.
I think, and this is fascinating, is people are starting just to join in on the live stream here on all the platforms, because we're live on Facebook, LinkedIn, obviously, and on Twitter, and on YouTube right now.
Right.
But this whole situation is quite fascinating, and this might be a little bit off topic, but it could be part of topic. Is that what I believe is that technology, because we're going to get all these advancements in technology, and I said, well, I think what we're going to get first is an acceleration of technology, because I think there's a whole bunch of technologies that are out there that we haven't used much or haven't used to their capacity. Or, hey, Nestle, how are you? We'll bring that up. People are just chipping in. There we go.
Cool.
And that we're going to get access to now, that it's accelerated. It's like whatever, there's stuff that 5 years already planned ahead that we weren't ready for, but now the world's just gone, heck, here it is. And then there'll be a bunch of advancements after that, but we're getting an acceleration of technology. So I think that's what's really going to happen first, because there's a lot of stuff that we as humans weren't ready for, or weren't ready to embrace, to leverage. Like, once again, if I think, I talked about this when we had our other call. If I'd told my clients that, hey, I'm going to do all my leadership coaching sessions that we do as part of the Next 90 process with them on a video conference, they kind of, it's a bit B grade, Dave. But now the market's swung in our favor, and they're going, hey, this stuff's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're a great presenter. I think whether you're live or on camera, you're just an amazing, vibrant energy, I think, and that comes across.
Thank you. Well, yeah, like, once again, they say the camera adds 10 pounds, but I think it also takes away 10% of your personality at the same time. So this is when anybody asks me about being on film, I said, it's kind of like you got to channel your inner Jim Carrey and almost like overact to an extent, because it takes away about 10%. That I think that energy, that vibe that you have when you're face to face, because like you, I do prefer face to face. But if this is the way we have to, or going to be part of the way that we have to embrace going forward, then this is part of what we need to do. But this could be a wonderful segue into the concept of why we wanted to get together and do this live stream, about leading an unknown brand. And imagine if we had to do this way back when we didn't have all this technology, or all this technology would have cost us. I did some pricing once. For me to have the marketing manager, the access to all this, the technology I have to, it would have cost me over $500,000 15 years ago to do what I'm doing today for virtually nothing. Cost of my phone, my internet. Like when you think about it, the value add.
Yeah.
Like, so if I had to do this back then, wow. And if I was looking at how would I lead an unknown brand back then without all this, holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
So mate,
exactly.
let's
Who has, as a startup, who has
yeah.
$500,000?
Yeah. Well, that's why only big corporations were able to do this back then, not small business. And this is where I think small business can win the day a lot more now, because we have access to all this technology that big business had and has always had. But now we can use it for our own benefit. The question is, I guess, is, are you using it, and how are you using it, why are you using it, when are you using it, and all this sort of stuff. Like even like
Sure.
LinkedIn Live here, as we're live on LinkedIn. I've talked to so many people that go, oh, I haven't got LinkedIn Live yet. And I said, well, did you know you actually have to apply for it? And like, oh, no, I didn't know. So yeah, well, that's why you don't have it, because you actually have to put an application in for it. Well, it's still, I guess it's into some kind of beta, and you have to make some sort of commitment as to what you're going to do with it. But they're not. They're just waiting for it to happen rather than going find it. Like I saw a bunch of people doing LinkedIn Live, and I'm like, basically, how come they have it and I don't? What's going on here? So I Googled it and searched it and found out, and then put my application in. 3 weeks later, I got LinkedIn Live, and I've been using it every week ever since.
Well, I think that's one of the key things going into the topic that we're speaking about with leadership is initiative and resourcefulness. And what you've just demonstrated in that small example is that you're very resourceful and you've got the initiative. Instead of waiting for someone to try and invite you to access or create LinkedIn Live, you've researched it. You created an enabling tool for you to be able to do what you do best.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, it's whether it was Tony Robbins or whoever said it first. A lot of people, it's not a lack of resources, it's a lack of resourcefulness. When you sit there and think, oh, we don't have the resources that big business have, you might not, but that might be not because you don't have the resources, but because you have a lack of resourcefulness. Like, go and find it. Like, when I look at everyone else, like, how come I don't have this resource? But I have the resourcefulness to go and find a way to make it happen. Even if they said, well, Dave, you're going to have to wait 6 months, at least I've gone in and put my application in. And if I had to wait 6 months, then I had to wait 6 months past, but I was not going to hold back on it.
Well done.
So,
and that's,
so why don't
true.
So lead us into this here. The reason why we got together, you're probably better to articulate this than I am. This is really cool. But why did we get together to talk about, leading an unknown brand? Why? What's it about?
Well, I reflected back. Most of the things that I do in my life, I look at my own life experience and I work from that. And I recall a time in my life where I was young and very fortunate to be working for a global company with an international brand that's been established over 100 years in so many countries and has offices and presence and branding and label, and everything is already set up for it to be a global giant. And I love that brand. I mean, I probably still wear it on my chest somewhere. And that brand is Caterpillar. It was, it's obviously a Fortune 500 company. And I was fortunate enough to work with them for about 14 years. I worked my way through from being a uni graduate that was in manufacturing, scheduling parts for the production line, to logistics, to supply chain, to marketing, to marketing the supply chain, to going out and being customer facing, to being a loyalty branding marketing specialist for the parts, for the machinery. And I loved it. And I loved the journey because it helped me grow as a person. But after 14 years, I was ready to start my own business and become a consultant and a coach and a hypnotherapist. And then I realized, it dawned on me, first day in my own office, oh my God, my new brand is Bas Tadros. And who knows this guy? I haven't been around for 100 years. I don't have global offices. I'm not a Fortune 500 company. How do I begin to market and to brand and hence began my journey? And that's what I was reflecting on when we decided on this topic.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I reckon it's a big question that a lot of people out there would be asking themselves right now, who may be watching this or watch this later. There's a lot of people who've left big corporate world and have decided to go out on their own, and kudos to them. I think now is the greatest time to be in business. And for me, I'm just unemployable. So I realized after being not unemployed, had my own business back in Canada, but when I moved back to Australia here, I took the opportunity to go back in the trenches, roll my sleeves up, and be a leader and run organizations and that again. But when it came to like maintaining the organizational and that sort of stuff, I just realized I'm just unemployable. I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
And
I like that. I think that could be something people should wear, business owners, instead of saying I'm unemployed, I'm unemployable.
Yeah.
Because
well, that's why I said, well, bugger this. And I remember the conversation specifically with my wife, bless her cotton socks. She was brave enough to come on this journey with me. And I said, you know what? I'm never having another job ever again. I said, I'm either gonna, and I remember we were sitting in our garage. It was cold in winter, so Canadians, we sit in the garage, and we were in Australia here. We were doing because it was cold for us poor Canadians. We're sitting there, and I pointed to this pizza box on the floor, and I said, no matter what happens, love, if I have to sleep in that pizza box on the floor, I'm going to build this business because I am unemployable, and I do not ever want to have another job ever again in my life. And
I think that's admirable. That's one of the best attitudes a business owner or someone who's building his business, his brand as a leader needs to have. It's like the burning the ships at the shore, not to have in the back of their head that I need to probably get a job if this doesn't work out. And let's face it, in all honesty, most people, I'd probably go as far as like 90%, if not 95% of the people that are employed in jobs don't love their jobs. They don't sit there every day going, I love my job. There's something about it. They're thinking of starting their own thing, and it may be because they're sick of doing the same thing. It may be because they don't want to work for someone. It may be because they don't like their boss. There's so many different variables. And I remember at some stage I was getting that way. I was starting to go, I don't like what I'm doing anymore. And I said, well, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to torture myself and do what I don't like. If I love it, I'll do it. If I don't love it, I've got to find something else to love. So people ask me, on a common daily basis, I shock people, Dave, and people ask me, how are you today? And I go, I'm loving life. And they go, oh, loving life. I go, what? You're not loving life? They go, oh. I go, well, if you're not loving life, you've got to change something. It's your life. If you're
not loving life, you're doing it wrong.
That's right, exactly. And you only get one, so
have a crack at it. And I think that's really important. So we talk about leading an unknown brand. I guess what from me and just sharing that experience about myself is I planted a seed. That like this was it. Like so for me, like come hell or high water, I'm building this organization. No matter what it takes, if I have to sleep on a couch, sleep on the pizza box, whatever it is. And then, like I said, I asked my wife if she'd come on that journey with me, which I think is really important, especially if you're a solo entrepreneur going on a journey. You need to make sure you communicate well with your partner and bring your partner along on that journey with you, or give them the opportunity to do so. And if she chose not to, then that would be her choice. I'm thankful that she did, which is great, because I knew that I just knew this is what I needed to do. And then, when you think about this from leading an unknown brand, like the reason why I do everything that I do, and I'm willing to fail and make mistakes and throw anything out there, because I think this is part of leading an unknown brand, is you have to put so much stuff out there and find out what resonates, what doesn't resonate, what works, what doesn't work, what works for you, define your lane, define your voice, define your lyrics, everything like that you need to do. For me to do that, and we talk about this uncertainty vast that's in the world today. I needed to find some sense of certainty in the uncertainty. And the only way I could get that certainty was to work out what my worst case scenario was if everything went to hell in a handbasket and I lost everything, which I've done before in my past. And if I lost everything, what was my worst case scenario? And so as I worked out what my worst case scenario would be, all I had to do is like, can I make peace with that worst case scenario? And if I can make peace with that worst case scenario, then why wouldn't I go after everything that I want with everything that I have and everything that's available to me? And that's what I chose to do. And so for me, there's no looking back. And it's like, if I'm looking back, rear vision mirrors in your car are only this big for a reason, right? Yet your windscreen is massive, right? So every now and again, I'll do a little reflection, see if make sure nothing is coming up behind me. But I look at that and I go, okay, well, hey, I learned from that. I made a mistake, or that didn't really work very well. This didn't happen. When you're bringing your team members in, you're going to make mistakes. I've led massive teams before, and recruited, probably thousands of people in my life. But you have to start. I think the whole point of this leading an unknown brand, even for yourself and for myself, where I was 3 years ago, is you have to be willing to start and go all in on it. There's, I don't believe in the plan B thing. If once you've found what it is that that is in your heart and your soul, that this is my life's work, this is what I must do, then what do I need a plan B for?
Spot on. Yeah, I love that too, Dave, and I agree with Donna Morris. I think that is, if I could, with your permission, break that down,
please,
for the uninitiated, because I'm thinking of a 25-year-old version of me, sitting maybe somewhere in Perth in lockdowns, and while he's working, he's listening to something, or he's somewhere in Melbourne or Sydney or wherever he may be. And that 25-year-old me is listening to this going, that's the skill that I need to develop so that I can start my own brand, so that I can leave this job that I don't love anymore and do something that I do love. So the mindset that Dave just described is failing forward, thinking, what's the worst case scenario? That I lose everything. And am I prepared to risk everything for the sake of gaining what it is that I want to achieve? And the answer should be very loud, and I'm not going to swear, but it's like, yes, yes. and if it's not that, then you don't have a vision yet. You don't have a purpose yet. And that's okay. There's no judgment here. It's about developing that until it becomes a loud and outstanding yes, and then you're willing to go. But if you're afraid, which fear is okay, you got to embrace fear. It's part of that journey. Afraid to fail, and that's more often for men rather than women, because men, the things that completely make them stand like a rabbit in lights is fear of failure.
Yep.
Fear
and,
of
and that was something that I certainly had going. Like I'm not immune from all this because do what I do for a living. Like I'm human, and I had all those feelings too. Like I was thinking, like I'm supposed to be the provider for my family in my mind. Like this. I know it's very old school thinking and stuff like that. But as a man and all that, that was just where I was at, and so that. But a lot of that's just ego, right? So, and trying to be too masculine about things, and we have feminine and masculine energy in ourselves, and we needed to embrace both those. But I love what you're saying there, because for me, I have all these little clarisms, which are just quirky quotes that just fall out of my mouth. And one of them I've had for many years is, I'd rather fall flat on my face than flat on my ass, because at least if I fall flat on my face, I'm going forward.
I love that. That's brilliant.
So that's your fail forward thing. Like, if I'm going to fall tripping forward, not because I've been going backwards. I'm going to fall because I've been going full steam ahead and I've tripped over something, but at least I'm going forward. So if you're going to fall flat on your face.
And I agree with you. It is an ego thing. It's a masculine ego thing, the fear of failing, but it's also a cultural thing. Like for me, I wasn't allowed to fail as a kid. I was told very, very early on by my parents, you can't fail your classes. You can't fail your school. You got to always move forward, and failing is not an option. And so I grew up with that mentality that I'm not allowed to fail. I'm in corporate, I'm earning X amount of dollars. If I was to start my own business, I need to be earning those dollars. There was no way that my mind would comprehend going backwards or failing. That was like not an option. So
those were the conditioning
then you have
that you had. Yeah, but and that's that's a challenge for a lot of people. And so you have to have a relationship with, and all the entrepreneurial gurus out there will tell you need to have a relationship with failure and everything like that. Like, I get it. So for me, I've got a short little video I've done before, but it's about making mistakes. So don't fail. Then failure is, if you have that as a finality in your mind in terms of failure as a final thing, well, great. Be prepared to make a lot of mistakes along the way then. If you don't want to fail, don't fail, but make a lot of mistakes. You did not become who you are today, Bass, and your brand, leading your unknown brand, will not happen going forward in the future without you making some mistakes, because you are not who you are today without learning from the mistakes that you've made. All right. Now, there's mistakes you made that you haven't learned from. So that's, but the ones you are who you are today from the ones you've learned from. So what makes you think that going forward, leading an unknown brand into this new world and this uncertainty and that you're not going to have to make more mistakes as you do that? So once again, it's about having that relationship with making mistakes. But if you don't want one with failure, that's fine, but have a relationship with making mistakes. And the way I share it with people to make it simple to someone, if I'm the director of your movie, like you're the lead actor, okay, and you say your lines, and I go cut, take two. Bass,
Yep.
can you deliver it again with a little bit more passion? And I want you to, that part there, I'd love you to really rip into that and really remember that memory and bring that projected out. Because a mistake is a missed take. If you look at it as a missed take, right? So then it's just take two. So go and deliver your lines the best as you can. We're talking about building a brand and all that and getting your message out to the people and speaking your love for why you do what you do to the market. Then you have to be able to do that and be prepared to have a missed take. Right, so then we've got take two, right? And I have a clapperboard in my office there. I did all this like an actual director's clapperboard there, just to go, every now and then, like, God damn, that didn't work.
We got to do some of these videos together. We really do. Yeah. We need to be standing together, creating all this energy and making the mistakes and learning from them and going, take two, and we'll do it live.
But you need to be willing to do that. So if you don't want to have a relationship with failure, at least have one with making mistakes and be prepared to have a mistake. Because as a director, your job is to make sure that actor presents the best character and brings everything they can into that to project it through the screen to the audience. And so if you're leading an unknown brand and you are the director and the actor and the producer and everything like that, be prepared to have a mistake or to have critics come and say, oh, that was crap. Like, man, I look at my videos that I did 3 years ago and I go, oh, God, they're horrible. Like the background, the lighting, everything is just crap. And you know what? 3 years from now, I'm going to look at the videos I've done today and I'm going to go, oh my God, that's just crap. Like, what was that?
What do you mean I didn't have background lighting?
And I've got lighting and soundboards in here and everything in the studio and sound quality. And I'm going to go, oh, that just sounded terrible. I was just rambling. But so, and there was comments for other people. When you think about leading an unknown brand, there was some comments in some business groups this morning. They're always, the debate about perfection always comes up. And to me, perfection is a direction, not a destination. Right. So
good.
It's a direction.
Good distinction.
Perfection is the enemy of productivity, right? So if we're, I'll keep going in the direction of perfection. And what's perfect today, like I said, so what I thought was perfect, my live streams I did, when I first got Facebook Live was 3 years ago. It's like, oh my God, look at this. Look how great that looks. I look back now and I go, oh, right? I got my wire hanging down in front of me and all this. And I'm like, so what was perfect then is not perfect today. What's perfect today will not be perfect tomorrow. And what my definition of perfection is different to your definition of perfection. Right. So these are all things people need to take into consideration when you're leading your unknown brand into the future is, hey, have a relationship with mistakes, make peace with your worst case scenario so you can go all in on everything and make all those mistakes and be prepared to learn from them all. And then you can move forward with everything you need to do. Because, and something I taught my children as they were growing up, and I don't know if, they're 21, 24, and 30 now, and maybe even now they might not realize it until much later on, is that, you are made different to make a difference. They're like, oh, Dad, I want to be normal. I remember they were growing up, I just want to be normal. And I'm like, screw normal. You are made different to make a difference. You just got to find out what that difference is you want to have in the world. And when you can find that, and I know you share with me some of the difference that you want to make in the world, like that's your voice, that's your message, that's your platform. And as you go out there, Bass, you're going to be presenting that to the world, and you're going to fall flat on your face. And I will celebrate every time you fall flat on your face. But I'll be the first person to reach down a hand to help you get back up again.
Yeah. Well, as the saying goes, Dave, and I love what you're saying here, falling is a mistake, but staying down is a choice, right?
That's right.
And so one of the things I altered in my mindset was to embrace failure. And the only way I could do that is to reterm failure using your own terms about the directing. I reframed it from failure not being an option to failure equals feedback. Failure equals feedback. Whatever's not working, instead of going, oh my God, it's the end of the world, I look at it and I go, all right, well, I can learn from this. How can I make that work? That didn't work that time, but can it work like this? Or maybe that's not the right timing for that. How about I alter my timing? Is it cutting
Yeah.
out?
Yeah, no, it's right. Just zooming in and out there, mate. You're coming in clear now, which is awesome. I don't know what it's like on the live stream for everybody, but here inside the studio, you're still a bit pixelated. So, but mate, it's the message that's most important. And I think that's great that you have that. Failure equals feedback. Like that is, so you reframe, and this is what, once again, from a as you go and do all these things, like I've had to reframe the way I look at a whole bunch of things. So that's, to me, is you're just reframing failure. So you were conditioned to believe that failure is not an option, but you've reframed your thinking and conditioned a new way of thinking about it, because how I think determines how I act. All right. So how I think and feel will drive my behavior, which gets me the results and success that I may or may not be enjoying in my life right now. But by reframing that thinking, that causes you to behave in a different way now. So if you think failure is feedback, that means you will start doing things that you didn't do before, because when failure wasn't an option, well, you would only do so much that you knew where you wouldn't fail. But if there was a risk of you failing, you wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Right?
That's exactly right.
You've made a massive leap right now into your next role in life, and where you want to bring your life's best work through another platform now. And if you had that original thinking, you can't go into what you're going into now in such a short window and without I'm willing to fail and get feedback from it mindset. If you had your old mindset, you were conditioned to believe, you wouldn't even have made the leap that you're making right now.
Yeah, we'll use some other F words, fight or flight. And usually that's what fear dictates, right? Fight or flight. And for me, failure used to bring up a lot of fear. And so I would be like, I'm out of here. I'd run for the hills. But now the way that I see it, it's feedback. And so I could go, I'm willing to take the risk, because the worst thing that could happen is I'm going to learn something.
Yeah. Yeah. My buddy, Peter Churn, he always says, put yourself at risk of learning something new. So a little shout out to my buddy Pete. He needs all the shout outs he can get. He's only one of Australia's top keynote speakers in all of Australia, but he deserves a little bit of a shout out every now and again. Poor bugger. So Pete, if you're not watching this, I know Donna's watching this, and I know Donna, who's part of obviously one of the founders of Book Speakers Direct, and Pete's one of those people. If you can let Peter know that I gave him a shout out, that'd be great, because his ego requires a little bit of lifting every now and again. And I didn't want to steal a Turanism from him. So, but yeah, it's true. You put yourself at risk of learning something new. You talk about having the courage to get in the game, and then put yourself at risk of, the fact that you actually might learn something. Like, go and do it. So let's talk about
from others. We're always learning from others, just like what you said now about Pete, and utilizing. Sure, we've probably quoted Tony Robbins, we've probably quoted Gandhi, and all sorts of different people already in our conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. This maybe a little sidebar thing, but you can almost attribute any quote that's out there to, say, Tony Robbins, because he says all this stuff. But Tony Robbins read every single personal development, leadership book, whatever. He learned from Jim Rohn. He read the story goes 365 books in 365 years. Absorbed all that content and started teaching others. We all stand on the shoulders of giants. So there's no magic. There's a reframing, like I said, we've talked about. We reframe a lot of contents and all that sort of stuff, but there's no. I don't want to say there's no original thought. There's a lot of original thought, but the concepts of leading your unknown brand into this world, it's basic principles that you can apply. You just got to be willing to do the work, right? So let's talk about that. So what strategically then, when we want to lead this unknown brand into the world, what are some things that you think about that we should be doing? You're leading an unknown brand into the world. I've been on that journey now for 2 or 3 years. I figure, like anything, my overnight success will happen 10 years. So in 7 more years, I'll be an overnight success. So first and foremost, when you think about that conceptually, it's a long game, right? So if you want to lead an unknown brand, everyone, because we live in this instant society, everyone thinks as soon as I put something out there, and there are some examples where it does happen. There are some literal overnight successes, but if you're leading your unknown brand, you have to be in this for the long game. And if it happens faster, that's awesome. But you have to be willing to be in this for the long game. Like, I'm in this for the long game. I sat there when I made all this, my mind up about this, and I did the math, right, a mathematical brain at times. And here's my thinking. So when I talk about having the right mindset for the long term, about leading an unknown brand. So I'm 54 right now. In a few months, I turn 55. But if I go 54, okay, 36 years ago, I was 18. So if I take all my life learnings over the last 36 years that's gotten me to where I am today, all the experiences, all the wisdom and knowledge from myself through my actions, the stuff I've done, plus what I've learned from other people and every other bit of information I have. And now I have 36 years of massive amounts of life and business experience. And if I took 36 years from here forward, I'll be 90. And so I figure, keeping my body in reasonable health and my mind in reasonable health, I should make it at least to 90, touch wood, that there's no one knows when they're going to go. But if I do everything in my power to stay fit and healthy and keep my mind sharp, I've got at least another solid 36 years. So if I could take the 36 years of wisdom, experience, and everything that I have before and apply it to what's available to me today, with all the, we mentioned, and what's going to be available to us tomorrow, what could I actually create? Whereas most people at my age, around 55-ish, are starting to plan their next 10 years in terms of retirement, where they're all ramping down, I'm just ramping up. Because I'm in this for the long game. And this is my point. When I'm talking about leading an unknown brand, one of the first things is it's what I call being urgently patient. So it's one of my other things is you need to be urgently patient. And it sounds like an oxymoron of sorts. And, I put the moron and oxymoron. So if you think about being urgently patient, that means act with a sense of urgency, but be patient for the results. Because I'm in it for the long game. If you're in it for the short game, and my buddy Oscar, I know he's been watching quietly in the background there. So Oscar here, he's in real estate, so property management. He's like genius when it comes to property management. He's so focused on what he does. But Oscar knows, because he's been through this before, that this is a long game. Real estate is not a short game. If you're trying to win the short game of real estate, when the average, say, sales cycle on a house is maybe 5 to 7 years or 7 years, well, you've got to be willing to be in real estate for a long, long time and to build your brand and everything like that, right? So, this is a long game. So when I think about me leading my unknown brand, Circle Leadership, into this new, vast, uncertain world, the certainty I have is that I'm in it for the long game, and I'm willing to be urgently patient about building that brand. I can compare myself to all the other leadership, culture, strategy, entrepreneurial gurus out there and go, oh, they're so far ahead of me, it's not fair. And they are where they are because they did what they did. I can only be where I am because of what I've done and be where I'm going based on what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, even the Tony Robbins and the DeMartinis and all these people in leadership and in coaching and in inspiration and motivation, they always say the same thing, that the only reason people like them get to where they are is because they stick at it for long enough. And they've been at it for 30, 40 years. But I mean, for some silver bullets for our friend that's watching patiently, I think that one of the key things for building any brand, whether it's an unknown brand or a known brand, is relationships. Because people don't buy your product or your service. They buy you. They buy the relationship that they're establishing with you. So the better the relationship, the more the likelihood of them staying connected. And that's just one silver bullet.
Yeah. Well, and certainly, and that raises a really cool point. So anybody listening or watching to this now or in the future, all business to business, B2B, all business to consumer, B2C, is all H to H, human to human. I did a post about this the other day, is that businesses don't buy from businesses. People in business buy from people in businesses. Okay? Yes. That is what happens. So that whole relationship thing, you're absolutely correct. We need to make sure that so firstly, it's looking at the relationships you have, the relationships you want to build with the right people, and understand that it's all about people in the end. It's about that human-to-human connection that you're going to have. I made a couple of notes here, and thinking about what have I done? I was thinking, okay, how can I share with people what I've been doing with Circle Leadership and what my plans are going forward to build our unknown brand into the future. So I'll throw a few out and we can discuss some of those. But the first one I wrote down was the first thing I said is education. Right. the first thing I need to do is be able to educate people, because made different to make a difference. The way I look at things is subtly different to the way most people in my space do. Nobody does what I do the way I do it. There's a whole bunch of people who do purpose, values, vision, mission, culture, strategy, leadership, business coaching, but nobody does it the way that we do it here at Circle Leadership. So I need to educate people on a new way of thinking, because I really believe that if the world is shifting rapidly around us and there's all this uncertainty and we're not going to go back to business as usual, you may want to go back there, but you're never going to move forward that way. Well, then you're going to need to think differently. And what I've been presenting for the past 3 years is a different way of thinking. So it's about educating that and demonstrating my expertise and the ability of our team at Circle Leadership and who we are and what we stand for and how we can help people. So anyone out there watching, to me, the very first thing I would challenge you to do, and I know Oscar does a good job of this, and I would challenge you, Oscar, to do even more of this, is to educate people, like give them all the information to demonstrate your expertise ability. Not tell them how much of an expert you are, just give them the expertise. Give them your expertise, give them the education, demonstrate it. Don't tell me it. Don't, like that was the first thing we do. So I put out all those little 1-minute videos, just sharing with people simple little tips and techniques to lead smarter and better.
And Dave, you do that so well. You do it in such a beautiful way, which is deserving of honoring right in this moment, which is you lead by example, which is what I think leadership is about. Leading by example. Being the person that others want to follow. When you want to change something, from all of my experiences with change work, whether it's personal change work, corporate change work, or what I'm looking at right now, which is societal and democratic change work, which is a huge elephant. We talked about a David and a Goliath battle. It starts with building something that people want. You don't go in there to change something that's broken because you're just working with the same broken thing. You create something that's so compelling that people go, I love how that works. I don't want to be over here anymore. I want to be over there. And they want in. And so that's what you're talking about, leading by example to show what's possible. And emotion drives motion, right? Emotion, energy in motion. And so the more you're compelled, excited, driven, and you got the right words on your T-shirt, you're wearing them on your chest right now, purpose drives people. When you've got a purpose, you're driven. When you've got the right values, they guide you. I wouldn't even get involved with something that doesn't align with my values. It just would be a waste of my time and the other person's. Then your vision, if you don't have that vision, I wake up in the morning, I forget what I've done yesterday. If I don't have a vision in front of me, something that I can look at, that drives me again, reminds me of my purpose, reminds me of my values. And now I've got my mission. Now I'm on the go, and my mission's constantly evolving. Just like my body's constantly evolving, just like nature's constantly evolving. And so I think I love the words you got on your chest.
Well, I've got those actually. Well, there's one of my other things that I'll talk about in a moment. That was one of my strategies as well. But if you look, so certainly educate. So if you're going to lead an unknown brand, what you should lead with is educating people about what makes you different in terms of way where you're helping them, not telling them about yourself. So if I give you information that I think is going to help you, that's what I want to deliver, rather than going, hey, let me educate you how great we are. No, let me show you a really great way that you can do things for your business and improve your life and your business and everything. Oscar put up there, that people do business they know, like, and trust, and having 2 out of those 3 is not good enough. You have to have all 3. So I just want to quickly touch on Oscar's point there. That when I used to run sales training, I talk about building trust, and the formula for me for trust is credibility times reliability times likability equals trust. So C times R times L equals T. Because people do business with people they know, like, and trust. But credibility is also important, because there's a lot of people out there who lack credibility. They're let's call them false prophets, or they are echoes of other people's stuff. So you need to be credible. You need to be reliable and likable.
Or worse yet, maybe they bought into that hashtag, fake it till you make it. And there's
don't get me started on that.
I'm sorry. I know that you and I are both very much driven from a very authentic space. Yeah. But it would be unauthentic of me if I didn't mention it like that. For me, I don't believe in anything about faking it till you make it, because there's nothing real about that, and people can feel it. And so if we're talking about trust, yes, you're right. Your formula, you sound like Einstein talking about that. Your formula is great. You do have to have credibility. Of course, you have to have trust to build relationships.
Yeah.
However, if you miss any of these components and you go into the, I'll take it till I make it to build my confidence or to build my database, to build whatever, then you compromise the quality of credibility and the trust.
Yeah, and so credibility times reliability times likability equals trust. If anyone tells you, please, anyone watching this, if anybody tells you to fake it till you make it, run far, 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 far away from that person who's told you to do that. You do not need to fake anything in life. Yeah.
Wake them up.
Right. Yeah. Verbally, maybe not a physical stuff.
Yeah.
So certainly, education was was my first thought process. Okay, how do I bring education? How do I give as much as I can? Because once again, how do I be of service to other people? Like, how can I bring as much value to them as possible? Because the best way to show them what I'm capable of is to help them see what they're capable of. Because actually, what I'm capable of is helping them become capable of even more. And the best way for them to learn that was through process, all right, of education. The next thing I wrote down was then I wanted to then obviously create some sense of awareness. So writing articles, blog posts, content, get some media coverage. My friend Nick and the guys at Media Stable, if you want to get some really great media coverage, you can talk to an organization like that who can help you, get in front of the media and get, if you want to accelerate your ability to become known, then join Media Stable or an organization like that can help you do that, or join Book Speakers Direct and get your name out there and do some speaking engagements. And as Donna and Jerry and the gang out there will gladly help you to do that. But there's ways to do that, plus putting out amazing content. Gary Vee talks about it all the time. It's just content. Be consistent with your content, but make sure your content and your messaging is on point. And once again, and one of the things I've learned later on is I used to just push out content. It was education, and I put all this really cool stuff out. But one of the things I learned most was about making sure that I write my content in your voice. So if you're my ideal client, Bass, then I need to make sure, as I call it, writing my song lyrics as if it's your song that I'm writing, and I'm just going to sing it. And you go like, oh, he's singing my song. It's like he knows what I'm going through. He feels what I feel. This is it was great from the book Superfans, which is really where I learned a lot of that was from. Is like, wow, yeah, like how cool is that when you sit there and you I listen to some music and go, that artist is singing what I'm feeling. So if we want to get your brand known for the right people, you should know who your ideal client is too. But what's their song that you can sing that's going to resonate with them? And then put that content out there, and as much as you can, and be consistent and persistent. And once again, be urgently patient, because one of the other things that from building an unknown brand is you have to honor the one. If my first live stream, I only got one person watching it, I need to make sure that I honored that one person. And which leads to another one of my clearisms, which is sometimes all you need is one in a row. Because you can't have two in a row until you've had one. So if you don't honor the first one, you deny the first one, you're never going to get the second one. Right? So be very smart about this. When you're building an unknown brand, honor the one. And sometimes all you need is one in a row.
I think you're automatically speaking to my heart. And I'll tell you a little bit about that. So when you say sing their song, to me, what pops up in my head is allow your prospects to determine your presentation. If you don't allow them to determine your presentation, then you're talking about this great content that has no relevance to the audience. So that's just to, share with, rehash what you're saying or reconfirm that makes sense to me. And the other one about honoring the one, when I first started in my business, I thought, well, what do I do to get more people to come and see me? So I did all these free events, live events. People came to my office in East Perth every Saturday, free events. And sometimes only one person would turn up. And so I never imagined saying to that one person, sorry, nobody else turned up. I was expecting about 10, 20, 30 people, but only you came. So we're not going to do the event. I'd go, right, I'm here for you. We got the next captive audience. What would you like? What brought you here? And ask them the questions that help me focus on the content that they need.
Yeah, 100%, and that's so powerful because you just got to honor that one. So if you're building an unknown brand, it's so critical. Now, the other thing that I worked on was storytelling, right? So how do I tell a better story, which leads in from all that, lyrics, awareness, and then how do I put it into a really cool story? Like cool story, bro. Like that's what we want to create, right? So for me, Alan, you've got one of your fans on here, mate.
Oh, my man.
Big Al, it's my big brother, mate. He's the one who introduced me to you. Big Al, nothing but love for you, my man.
We can take a moment right now to honor Big Al's big heart.
Yeah, he's like one of the most amazing human beings on the planet today. I know Gary Vee does an overrated, underrated, and Big Al is totally most underrated human being I've ever met. Like he is so much more. Oh, absolutely. So we talk about big hearts. So this is the thing. So culture is how we think and feel about our business. Okay. So I've done this a lot of times with people. So that's one half of the heart. So you need to fall in love with why you do what you do. So if you're going to lead your unknown brand into the world, you need to be very clear on, what's the purpose that drives you? What are the values that guide you and the vision that inspires you? Right. That, like, to me is like, you have to love that. And then when you speak that love to the market, so when you're with your brand awareness and you're, from your getting your prospects to tell you your presentation, well, your purpose is the problem you're passionate about solving in their world. Your passion and their problem combined clash. That is your purpose, right? So when you're speaking that love to the market, they can then feel and receive that love in kind, right? And then we can all fall in love with why we do what we do, because culture is how we think and feel, but brand is how the market and the consumer thinks and feels about your business. Okay. Definitely. So marketing is me telling you how great I am. Branding is you telling the world how great I am.
Awesome.
So when you're doing your storytelling, so having your prospects prepare your presentation in that sense, or help you form your presentation, well, you need to be listening to them. You need to be listening what they are, so you can write those lyrics and then re-speak them back to the market with love and passion for the work that you do. Then to create that so that they can fall back in love with why, or fall in love with why you're doing, or go, oh, somebody finally gets me, and then speak that love to the market, and then they'll speak that love to the market. And that's the storytelling that you need to do. It's not storytelling about necessarily yourself. It's storytelling, I'm trying to remember the guy does it. He's got the story brand or whatever it's called. And he uses a great example in there. He says, and I say, like, my job is to be Obi-Wan Kenobi to your Luke Skywalker, for all the Star Wars buffs out there. Okay, so my job is to be the guide and be the mentor in that sense of your story, not to tell you my story. Although my story is important because I learned all my stuff through my story. So I need to mix in a bit of my own storytelling and how I learned what I learned. But then my job is to relate that to, so it becomes your story. So our story comes together. But it's all about, that. So storytelling was the other huge thing that I've started working a lot more on. And it's quite funny. I love you too, Big Al. The one of my most powerful videos I ever did on LinkedIn. I was over in Melbourne at the time. I just finished this amazing day with some amazing clients over there, back when we could travel. And I was reflecting on how far I'd come in my life. And I just sat on the floor of my Airbnb with the bed leaning up against the bed. I was just on the floor, and it's a video. It's available on LinkedIn. And I just told people the story about when I went from starving to serving, when I realized that nobody buys from a hungry person. And then when I realized that it was the more I actually valued and took care of the person and cared more about the person in front of me than I did myself, all of a sudden I was getting amazing results because they were getting amazing results. And it was just an 8-minute video, one take, just sitting on the floor there, had my camera on a little tripod, and I just told the story about sitting in my kid's bedroom one night, bawling my eyes out, wondering what I'd done because I'd lost everything. And how that then led to my next year to be the best year ever. It was just a simple, and I just told my story. And it had 5,000 or 8,000 ridiculous views within 24 hours. It just went viral in terms and I'm like, this is nuts.
Yeah. Well, again, energy and emotion, right? Because you told an emotional, compelling story, but also it's a reminder of, if you want to be successful, get busy helping as many other people as possible get successful. So the more successful people you help, the more automatically you generate and create success. And the emotional chord that strikes with me, especially in this time, at this point in my life, is my leadership is evolving, my mission is evolving to serve more people, not just as Bas Tadros, as my brand in my coaching, my hypnotherapy, and in my own right, my own brand. I am now working on another unknown brand, which is Health Australia Party, which is made up of people like you and I that are taking on the David Goliath battle of our age, which is politics, because politics is driving our society, and it's driving our democracy, and it's driving our behavior, and it's driving and impacting our economy and our environment and all sorts of things in life. And so what I've done as a leader that's evolving is I've evolved my mission to go, it's beyond me, beyond my brand. And I'm not going to be so afraid of failure to say no. I'm going to embrace this opportunity and step in completely out of my comfort zone into an area that I absolutely dislike, which is politics. I don't know anybody that likes it, right? You know, we talked about a beautiful story, you and I, the other day, about how Australians are passionate about sports. And we know that Australians are so passionate, it's become our culture. You know, the sports culture, it's like that's the Australian branding. People think of Australians, they think of sports and sports events and all the things that we do. And we hold our sports, our athletes, our coaches to very, very high standards and high regards. To the point where we crucify them if they get something wrong, right? Even coaches get sacked like that. They get dropped from a successful team, right? Like I think you mentioned the Eagles or something, or Fremantle.
When Ross Lyons got booted from the Dockers.
There you go. And so what happens is today we've allowed ourselves to lower our standards so much with the people that are supposed to be the leaders of our country, or our state, or our community, or our whatever. And now is not a time where we go, no, I'm not going to talk about politics because I don't like politics. For me, now is the time where I go, I don't like it and I need to change it. So if I'm not part of the change, I either find something else to do and not even talk about change work, because that's, you know, so no change maker in the history of mankind has said, well, that's the status quo, so let's just keep it. For me, it's like, that's not on, and I do not accept it, and I need to change it. And if I'm going to change it, I better be the change. I better be the standards that I want to uphold. And so I'm going to uphold whoever is in politics, including potentially me, if I get elected in this next state election, which is what I'm throwing myself into, to the same standards as we would hold our athletes, our elite performers, and the coaches to that. And I've got to be a champion of the people. You know, we talked about Big Al before. He's a champion. That's his brand, champion of the community that he serves. I've got to be a champion of serving my community. But what we're seeing today is people like MPs back up and go, oh, no, I was standing up for my people and my party just reeled me back in. You know, and so are they going to toe the party line, or are they going to be actually doing the job that they're supposed to be doing as leaders, which is serve the people and be honorable, honest, trustworthy, reliable. What was your formula again?
Credibility times reliability times likability equals trust.
Boom.
So I'll give you this is how clarisms happen. You can either toe the party line or toe the party to the line.
Love it.
So I challenge you to toe the party to where it needs to be, not to toe the party line.
Yeah. And this is one of the...
You are made different to make a difference. And in this Health Australia part, health is in everything we do. Health is in sports. So that sports analogy is wonderful, because imagine, like, the reason why we love sports, obviously, is, you know, obviously there's the whole excitement around the concept of sports, but the health and the fitness and the well-being and everything that these athletes pursue is wonderful role modeling for that. Unfortunately, there's some bad downsides to it, but like the ability to have a healthy, and this is why we put our kids into sports. We want them to, you know, learn a whole bunch of disciplines and team and organizations. So taking all that Australia loves about sports, imagine if we could hold our political arena in the same thing. Like there's the political arena where all the politicians run in, and you know, and I always said to people, you have a choice. When you run into the grandstand, you can either run up into the stands itself and find the best seat, or you can run on the field and start playing the game. Unfortunately, most people run in and get the best seat.
I've never been the guy that wants the best seat. Never. I actually had a really good mentor and a good friend of mine who was a lot my senior back in the corporate world. And he said, in this world, there are three types of people. I think there's more than three, but let's just say with his example, there are three simplified things. That there's those who do things and get things done, those who watch them do it, and then there's those who don't even have a clue what's going on around them. And when he said this to me, he said to me, you get to choose. Every day you wake up in the morning, you get to choose which one of those three you want to be. And
make it happen, watch it happen, or wonder what the hell happened. That's what I was always taught. Yeah. So, so a couple of the things then, because we've got about 5 minutes left, and I want just a couple of the points I wanted to throw out and get your take on. So let's talk about this. So the hashtags. So one of the things that I decided way back when was I wanted to get my core hashtags and create what I call like a hashtag movement for myself, and be very consistent. And like this isn't something people would search at the moment. Right, because they're very popular if you understand how hashtags work. But I would challenge anybody out there, if you want to lead an unknown brand, get your hashtag right. If you look at the Avengers movie, when it's hashtag love you 3000, from when Iron Man talking to his daughter and all that sort of stuff, like the power of a hashtag that's very popularized is so important. And if you want to, so find out what is that hashtag that you can, either an existing one that's out there that you can bring in and be part of your messaging. It's like the hashtag Me Too, all these, like they're all movements, and the power of hashtags, so don't underestimate the power of hashtags. But for me, these are the four most important things in all the work that we do, is having a purpose that drives, a set of values that guide, a vision that inspires, and a mission that evolves. And so I just created those four hashtags. And on most of my content that goes out, I'm very consistent with those sorts of things. Okay, but so hashtags is a really important thing. So I know anybody else is watching, Alan and stuff that he's doing in homelessness and his community work and everything like that. Make sure you have a very consistent hashtag that you're using all the time. Oscar, I know you do something, that around your property management. Mate, get very clear on what that one hashtag is. That is, at least one core hashtag that is yours, that you're going to take ownership of and plaster it everywhere. So anyone searches it, they're going to find you. A couple of other things then is I put leverage other networks. And I know Oscar started his own podcast and stuff, but I started obviously the Evolution of Business Show podcast for two reasons. One, I wanted to once get education. I wanted to put out this whole messaging about if you don't evolve yourself in your business to stay relevant, you're going to be in big trouble moving forward. If you weren't already, you're going to be in bigger trouble going forward. But the beauty of that is I started the show initially actually just as me talking about stuff, and I just thought it just wasn't really rich enough for me for what the value I wanted to bring. So I started rebooted the podcast at the beginning of 2020, actually. Oh, we've lost Bass, I think. Oh, there you are. And we rebooted it. And actually then I started bringing in guests to the show, right? And I get them to tell their story, right? So Al's just put up his hashtags there, which is great. So then I started inviting guests in to tell their story. And that to me was really powerful, because what I was able to do then is leverage their network. So now all of a sudden, my information, my content, and my podcast has a standard structure to it. It's all about stories from those individual leaders and that talking about how they've evolved, what they see difference in growth and evolution, how they personally evolved, their business evolution, and then what they see in the future. So now I'm getting everyone else to tell their story through the lens of the work that I do. I've had some amazing guests. I'm blessed at the people that I've had come on the podcast, but now all their networks are now exposed to the brand of Circle Leadership and the work that we're doing. So, don't be that. And I know Oscar, for example, he does a podcast with Tony Viner TV and him do a podcast, which is great. Oscar, I would challenge you to get some of your property management clients on there and get them to tell their story through your podcast. It's great, you guys, and you're putting some amazing information out, but I would challenge you to start bringing in some of your clients and get them to tell how great using dedicated property management is, and stuff like that, what's going on. I think, that would be pretty powerful. And the last couple of points I had, and actually one word I talked about was writing the song lyrics. And the last one is be consistent. If you're leading an unknown brand, and my challenge to you, Bass, is be very consistent. At Health Australia Party, when you've got your platform, you're very clear on the difference you're going to make and how you're going to help the party you're going to tow the party to the line. You need to be very consistent in that messaging. Like you cannot waver on that, because people are going to buy into what, the lowest common denominator of what it is that you do.
Mm.
And if that lowest common denominator is consistently high, then there's no choice but to stick to that consistent message.
Well, the idea for us is to drive better health. And for me, the only way I was ever going to get involved with this platform is not to play the old traditional game. If I want to be part of the change, I've got to play the new game. And the new game is not the making false promises prior to elections. Forget that. That's dinosaur age politics. Beating up other people in order to make ourselves look better. Never going to happen. That's not something that we can do. We're just going to focus on solutions and maintain an idea and an identity that is healthy. So the 5 pillars of Health Australia Party, I guess, just to talk about health, is healthy people, healthy environment, healthy economy, healthy democracy, and healthy society. And that's what it's all about. So it's about
how important is that right now in the world?
It's very important. This is it's now or never. You know, if we can't get this right now, when will we ever do it? We've got the perfect.
And, we're coming up to we've come up to an hour now, so we're going to have to wrap this up a little bit. But I guess you raised one thing there which I really wanted to touch on, and you and I talked about this when we had our own conversation. Was and it's very common in political arenas, is to belittle other people to be big yourself.
Yeah,
right.
Terrible.
So as you're leading your unknown brand of the world, don't try to make your brand look bigger by taking somebody else's brand and bringing it down. You know, I can sit there and I look at a whole bunch of other people and some of the stuff that they do, and I'm like, it grates on me, and it triggers a lot of things in me about like they're just what they're doing. And I could either just easily go and rip into them and bring them down, which will make me look better, or I can just go and be different, be better and stronger and more powerful in that space, and be bigger because I'm bigger, not because I've belittled somebody else.
Yeah.
So don't try to build. You don't build your brand by reducing somebody else and creating a gap this way. You only do it by making yourself better and bigger and different.
It comes back to 2 things. It comes back to, obviously, it's not just about taking the high road. It's not about the faking it till you make it, but it's about creating something that's better than the existing status quo, so that people go, "Oh, I love that over there." Not the other way around. Not trying to put something down.
Fuller. Mr. Fuller, he's one of my favorite quotes of all time, and he talks about if you want to change the model, like make a new model that makes the old model obsolete. Don't try and change the other one, right? So what you're talking about there is, I would challenge you in the Healthy Australia Party to make a new model that makes the old model obsolete. Not try to bring the other model down or tweak the other model. Create a whole new model that makes the old one. Thanks, Al.
Yeah. And I agree. You do walk the talk, and that's why I was saying about leading by example. And so the key is, I think sometimes you still have to make observations, not comparisons, so that you can learn from the contrast. But it's about then presenting the solution and being that solution, embodying that solution, living that solution, walking the talk, like Al says.
Yeah. So, and thanks, Al, for. So, mate, we're going to have to wrap up there. To Al, Donna, Devinder, I know there was somebody else at the beginning, Neslin, I think, Oscar, everybody else who's tuned in. Neslin, thank you so much for tuning into this. Hopefully it's added some value to you guys. Bass and I, we're having a great conversation. We said, hey, we should just do this live and share our thoughts, because we're both in different stages of journey, but we're still on the same journey in terms of building an unknown brand, if you wish. These are some things that we're working on and that we've realized, and some of the thoughts and philosophies and strategies. If it helps any of you out there, that's awesome. If you have any other thoughts or ideas that you're working on, after this video, drop them in the comments so we can all learn from each other. I mean, Bass and I are definitely not the experts and the gurus in this space. We're just sharing you we're practitioners. So we're just telling you practically what we're doing and what we're working on, what's working for us and what's not. But there might be some really cool stuff that you're doing that we can all learn from too. So please be willing to share and put some comments down below. And I know if you reach out to Bass or myself, we would both be putting him on the spot here, but I know he will be willing to have a call, have a chat with you, and share more personally about something that you might be working on that you want some more help with. So most enjoyable. Okay, we got Donna. Thank you. Yeah, most enjoyable. Lots of head nodding here. Thanks, Donna. And please check out Book Speakers Direct if you're keen to get some awareness out there. These guys are amazing. They have actually created a new model that makes the old speaking model obsolete. These are leading examples of that. Donna and Jerry. All right. So, mate, Bass, thanks very much for that. Maybe we'll do this again. I'm sure we'll do it again, I'm sure. But thank you for your time this morning, man. I really appreciate it. It's been great to get to know you at a much deeper level. And, and anyone who's out there looking for a new model in terms of political influence and wants to see things shift or change in the world, check out Bass and the Health Australia Party. I think that, this is something that we should be looking at, this new model that will make the old model obsolete.
Thank you, Dave. Keep being the amazing leader that you are, and keep raising other leaders, because that's what you do best.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much. Okay, guys, thanks everyone for tuning in.